Welcome to the Legends of Boxing show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network, brought to you by the Retired Boxers Foundation and MyBookie.ag. I'm your host for the Legends show, Mike Goodpaster, and I'd like to welcome to the show today my guest, former WBC Bantamweight Champion of the World, Wayne Pocket Rocket McCullough. How you doing, Wayne?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
All right. Great to have you on the show. I know you were one of my favorites when you fought back in the 90s. Tell us a little bit about your early life growing up in Ireland and what led you to begin boxing.
Well, I grew up in Belfast, Northern Ireland, more or less through the Troubles, which started in '69 right through to the 90s, religious divide and stuff like that. So I started going to the boxing gym, which is a local gym that I can walk to. And it kept me out of trouble, and I found out I was actually good at it, so I kept going, and my goal was to get an Olympic medal and just try to get the people together.
Yeah, and I mean, what was that like back then? I mean, I know just from watching, ABC Sports with Barry McGuigan, the divide there was huge, and how it had to be hard for you, somebody not taking sides, kind of staying in the middle of all that.
Yeah, it was tough. Barry McGuigan, he was my hero growing up, and he was from Clones. He wasn't from the hub of it, which is Belfast. Belfast, where I grew up. I was born in Belfast, and as I say, that was surrounded by you had British soldiers walking the streets. You had bombs going off probably every other day, and I've lost people at the bombs as well, people I knew and stuff like that. So it was hard because you walk into a clothes store and you're getting searched. The security we have at the airports here in America, we had that back in Ireland when I was growing up. So it was nothing new to me when they brought it here. But Belfast, as I say, was a war zone. There was bomb scares probably every 2 or 3 days. There was a bomb scare, and you go out, you're shopping in a clothes store or a grocery store, and they say you got to evacuate. There's a bomb scare. But when there was a bomb scare, it didn't go off. But because when a bomb went off, it just went off. There was no warning sign. It was just like went off. But when there was a bomb scare, it was just people trying to scare people just to evacuate the place. So it was a normal life for me. It was like a war zone. And as a kid, to say when you're 6 years, 7 years old, you're a man. You grow up quickly.
Yeah.
And I say boxing was my way out.
And we had John Matthews, who's a listener, wanted us to ask you a question about your amateur career. He wanted to ask you what you recall from your Ulster senior final fight with Johnston Todd, which he said was a great fight that was televised, and he wants you to talk a little bit about that fight.
Well, you know what, Johnston Todd, God rest his soul, he died when he was like 45 years old. And great guy, I moved up a division that year. It was just before the Olympics in '92. It was end of '91, and he was knocking everybody out. He was a puncher. He was knocking everybody out, and of course, I remember the Ulster Hall. We sold it out as amateurs. It was completely packed out, and a lot of people, came up to me in the streets beforehand and said, "Oh, you're going to get knocked out." I'm like, "Okay." I said, "Just buy a ticket." And then I get to the fight, and he was a southpaw, and I could punch as well. And he came out, and I just started boxing, moving, and nobody ever seen me go backwards on the back foot. I was an aggressive fighter, but I knew how to go backwards as well. So I used my jab and kept going away from his big punch, and I was landing 3 punches to every one he was landing. And then at the end of the second round, I dropped him with a left hook. So the puncher wasn't a puncher anymore. I turned into the puncher because I was just like punch, combos, and then I caught him clean. And I beat him pretty easily. In the old scoring system, if you won a round, it was 2019. If you won it by a landslide, 2018. And the final score was like 60-51.
Yeah.
So I won the fight easily. And then I actually fought him 3 weeks later, and I beat him again down in the All-Irelands. But a great guy. I say the guy we talked afterwards. He's a great guy, and unfortunately what happened to him in the end.
All right, now 1988, you get your Olympic dream, but on top of that, in Seoul Olympics, from what I read, you were the flag bearer for the Irish team.
Yep, I was just barely turned 18, and that was the year that I went from youth to junior, senior in 1 year, and I won the national youth, junior, and senior all within like 9 months, and then I fought the national champion. He was I think he was about 5 years older than me, and they put me and him twice for the box office Olympics, and I beat him twice. I actually stopped him twice, and then I got to go to the Olympics, which is my first. The Olympics in '88 was my first major tournament, and as a senior, and they weren't going to send me because I was young, but I'm like, I'll get the experience for the next one. And I go out there, and they say, because I was the youngest member of the team, they give me the honor of carrying the flag. So I'm walking into the Olympic Stadium, probably in front of 1 billion people around the world, which is like an amazing thing. And where I came from at that time, the troubles were so bad that me carrying the Irish flag was like the opposition. So, but there was never any hassle, and people try to bring politics into sports. And my quote always through my career was, I'm a sportsman, not a politician. And for sport, I would do anything.
Yeah. And you get to the Olympics. I think you won your first fight, but you got a tough draw. You had to fight Scotty Olsen. I think it was from Canada. You lost to Scotty there. You want to talk a little bit about your fights in the '88 Seoul Olympics?
Yeah, the funny thing is, from '92 onwards, you had to qualify to get the Olympics, and '88 you didn't. You won the nationals and got to go. So I say in the '92 they break it down to 32 fighters in each weight class to make it like 5 fights at the most. But in '88 there was I think it was 77 fighters in my weight class. So I got a bye in the first round. I beat a guy called Fred Mudawade in my second fight, and then I drew Scotty Olsen, who was a lot more experienced than me. He was a Commonwealth gold champion, and I went on to win a Commonwealth gold in 1990. But Scotty was a great guy. He could punch. He was a puncher. He banged pretty hard. First round, he hurt me with body shots, and then I say the second round I come on strong, and then the third round I came on stronger. But I lost out. It was just behind on points, and he beat me. But a great guy, and I say to this day I'm still in touch with him.
Yeah, he was a damn good fighter. Had a good professional career. Then before we get to the '92 Olympics, I want to bring up one thing I found on the internet, which you can find anything on the internet, was I did not know until earlier today that you actually fought Arturo Gatti in the amateurs.
Yeah, a lot of people boast about who they fought in the amateurs and stuff like that, and then the last few years actually people looked through my career and they found out I fought Arturo Gatti back in just before the Olympics in '88. That was my last fight before the Olympics in '88. I was 17 and Arturo Gatti was 16, so we were just young seniors. We were still senior level, and the Canadian team came over to Ireland, and Arturo Gatti was the light flyweight, and I was the Irish light flyweight. And I say I had 12 inside the distance wins in a row, so I was knocking everybody out. And I threw Arturo Gatti in the first round. I gave him 2 standing 8 counts, and then they threw in the towel. So the reason why they threw in the towel is because they were going to fight 2 days later. Had I knocked him out, then he wouldn't have got the fight. But 2 days later, he actually knocked the kid out. So he could still punch, and I say I was honored to share the ring with as a pro, he's a legend. And I remember the night we fought, I said to him afterwards, let's change tank tops. And he said, okay, yeah, in 2 more days I have to fight in this. And then, so I went into the next fight when he fought, and we exchanged singlets. And, as I say, he's another one who's passed away as well. It's crazy. But I never boast about it. I just, I beat some former professional world champions in the amateurs, and I would say amateur boxing's amateur boxing. Professional is what I want to do.
Yeah, but Arturo Gatti's still Arturo Gatti. So anybody that's a fight fan wants to hear anything they can about Gatti.
Gatti, I've got it's on video there on YouTube for people to see him. And say I could punch as a light flyweight. I was knocking everybody out. Because I had 12 inside the distance wins in a row at international level. I knocked a Cuban out right before I fought Arturo Gatti. So I was punching pretty well too. But you know what? He could punch too. We stood toe to toe and we banged each other. But but I gave him 2 standing counts and it was over.
All right. Then you're a little more seasoned. The Barcelona Olympics in 1992. You ended up making it to the finals where you lost to Joel Casamayor. What do you remember about that experience in Barcelona?
Well, the experience, just getting the Olympics the first time was unbelievable, but the second time it's like, wow. And that was my goal. And my goal was as an amateur to get some sort of medal, to try to get a good contract to go pro. Otherwise, you're not going to get, a good living. And my first fight, I drew a guy that I fought twice before, Fred Mudaweda, the guy I fought in the Olympics in '88. I drew him. And I'd fought him in between as well. I fought this guy in 1990 in the World Amateur Cup, and I beat him there too. So I fought the same guy his third time of fighting him, and I beat him again. And then I fought a guy from, I think it was Iraq. I beat an Iraqi guy. And then I beat a guy from Nigeria who was a Commonwealth gold medalist, and I won the Commonwealth gold with a different division. And then the semi-final was against the North Korean who beat the world champion in the quarter-final fight. And I remember that fight. It was one of the hardest fights of my life. We stood toe-to-toe. And going into the last round, I was 16-15 up, which is 1 point on the computer. And my last round was my strongest. I went out there and I beat him 21-16. And went on to the final to fight Joel Casamayor. And great fighter. He went on to become 2-time champion as a pro. First round was pretty even. And then the second round he hit me in the cheekbone, which is, my cheekbone was fractured in 3 places from the semi-final. And a busted nerve in just down the left side of my nose, which is, to this day, is still, I don't have any feeling in it. And I had blood coming out the corner of my eye from when Joel hit me with a straight jab. It wasn't a big punch, just a straight jab. He won the second round, and the third round, I went out, and of course, I won the last round, and unfortunately, he came up short. But me and Joel, I seen him, actually, he was in Vegas last week. He trains fighters at my friend's gym in Vegas, and we've been good friends since he defected in, like, 96.
Yeah, and so then the other thing, I just had somebody, I got a little distracted there, but I have another listener that just asked a question that wanted to know if it was true that you used to vomit to make weight in the amateurs.
No, it was just once or twice I did that. Yeah, I had to, because trying to get to the one it was actually 108 pounds is crazy. And you do like dumb things like Seabiscuit.
All right, now you turned pro in '93. You moved to Vegas. You get Eddie Futch as a trainer. How did that come to fruition? Because that had to be kind of a dream come true. One of the greatest trainers in boxing history.
Well, I thought it was being pranked or something, to tell you the truth, because Eddie was 82 years old. He was training Riddick Bowe, the heavyweight champ of the world, and I back from the Olympics, and my manager Matt Tinley, who was from Colorado, said Eddie Futch is going to train you. I'm like, train me? Why would he train me? A guy like that, why would he even take the time to even look at me? But he'd watched me from the Olympics, and he liked what he'd seen, and he was going to retire. He was 82 years old, they say. And I say he had Riddick Bowe, Mike McCullough was in camp, and he said he had a look at me and said, "This kid has it." And I came to Vegas for Eddie Futch, and the rest is history. The guy was just unbelievable. What he did, he didn't change my style. He turned me into a pro, make me relax, sit down on my punches, hit a bit harder, and ride the shots with my certain blocks and slips. And as I say, I became WBC champion in my 17th fight after just 2 years and 5 months of being a pro. And it was all down to Eddie Futch. He was just, it's hard to explain. He was just unbelievable. He really was. And as a person, he was just an even better person as well.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about the start of your pro career. What do you remember about your pro debut? I think it was in L.A.
Yeah, I remember I flew to America on the 20th of February, 1993, and I fought in Reseda on the 23rd against a Mexican who was local. He was living in L.A., whose uncle was the former world champion in the 80s. And I didn't even think about jet lag. I just jumped off. I was a young kid, just couldn't wait to fight, and then I went in there and knocked the guy out in the 4th round. And it was just, everything was just happening so quickly. It was just, I was young, as I say. I just wanted to fight as much as possible, and just, I always stayed in the gym, so I was training, and I wanted to fight as much as I could. And that's what I did at the beginning of my career.
Yeah, and it pays off because, like you said, 2.5 years after turning pro, you went to Japan and won a world title. What was that experience like fighting in Japan, and what do you remember about that fight?
Yeah, I'd say Japan was 2 years, 5 months after turning pro. I had my first 7 fights in 15 weeks. That's how quickly I was fighting. And 11 fights the first year, and fought the elimination fight after 15 months and became #1 contender. So it was a fast pace. But the champion, Yashui Yakashiji, was making the 5th defense of his belt. They won the purse bids. The fight went to Japan. And, of course, I was the underdog. And I went out there, and Eddie had the game plan just unbelievable. What he told me to do in the fight was just take away the guy's jab and hit him back with the jab. I did that. And the guy was a tall guy, he was like 5'9", 118-pounder. He could box really, really well and punch it as well. And I went out there and took the belt from him in his own city, his own home city in Nagoya, Japan. And I couldn't believe it. I was the first and still am the only WBC champion from Ireland. And I didn't know at the time, but I'm the only fighter from Britain or Ireland ever to go to Japan and win a world championship. So that was something different. And still, 22 years later, nobody has done that.
Yeah, very impressive. Especially impressive that they just didn't steal it from you, because that's why a lot of guys don't win over there.
No, it's. I won a split decision, but we expected that. And as I say, I would have been unanimous. One judge won 116, 110 or something, 116, 112. And then like 115, 114 from the Korean judge. So we expected that, but we knew it can't take it away from you if you win by a landslide, which I more or less did. But it happens, you can still lose.
Yeah.
And but the Japanese people were so humble and so nice before the fight and after the fight. They were, they treated me well. And to this day, you get young people who were probably like 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, send me letters or emails and stuff like that. And remember that they've seen the fight and they had respect for me beating their champion.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool as hell. Then it had to be special to you. First title defense at just Johnny Breedhall, where you get to go to King's Hall, Belfast, Northern Ireland. You said you were a McGuigan fan, so that had to be a special night also.
Yeah, the King's Hall was the old, like Madison Square Garden. It's like everybody wants to fight there as a pro, and just the fight there was just, we were sold out before I even left the country. And Johnny Breedhall was a former super flyweight champion who went on to become Bantamweight champion, and he had 2 losses, one against me and one against Paulie Ayala. And I was the only guy to stop him. He was like 5'10" mover. When I say mover, he ran. Believe me, he ran, and he had a good long jab and he poked it out, but he couldn't, as I say in the business, he couldn't burst a balloon. He couldn't punch that hard. So I just walked right through him and I broke him down. And I was disappointed the referee stopped the fight because I just got to him. I heard him busted his face up a little bit, but the referee stepped in and stopped it. I wanted to be the old school and knock a guy out. But I think enough was enough for him. I say Johnny Breedhall was a good fighter, and I tracked him down and I stopped him. And it was good to have my first defense in my home city, which I wanted to. And then my second defense I wanted to have in Dublin because I fought all my amateur career mostly in Dublin, the nationals. So it was great to do that.
Yeah, and then your next title defense wasn't as fortunate. You fought the old tough Mexican Daniel Zaragoza. He won a controversial split decision in what was one of the fights of the year in 1997. What do you remember about that night?
Oh yeah, it was when I moved up a weight to fight Daniel Zaragoza. Yeah, January 97. Well, good. Daniel Zaragoza, Hall of Famer. I thought I won the fight. The judge gave it to me. What the judge gave against me. I remember the referee who did the fight said, I thought you won the fight. And the referee's the closest person in the ring. But I'm like, we got fight of the year, and I'd go a rematch. It didn't make any sense. Fights of the year have trilogies.
Yeah.
And I never got to fight him again. And as I say, Daniel Zaragoza was inducted in the Hall of Fame after 5 years retirement, and I'm still waiting. It's weird. It really is. It's completely weird. And as I say, there was no shame in losing to him, of course. But as I say, we should have had a trilogy.
Yeah, or at least a rematch, because I thought you won the fight from watching it. So
yeah, a lot of people. Yeah, well, thank you. But a lot of people thought I won, but as I say, unfortunately, the two judges that night didn't. And as I say, I'm trying to.
Nobody cares what I think. So.
No, but I pushed the fight. And he was a slick boxer and puncher, and I had him cut over the eyes and everything, and I was having fun in there. And all of a sudden, Eddie Fudge, the day he died, thought I won the fight. So I think he knows a lot more knowledge than most.
Yeah.
And as I say, unfortunately, I didn't get a rematch.
Yeah, but instead, you get a shot at Prince Nassim Hamed. I think that was in Atlantic City, wasn't it, back in '98?
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about fighting Hamed and maybe some of his antics before the fight?
Well, Atlantic City on Halloween night, 1998. I remember Nazim fought my undercard in Dublin in September of '93. He was on my undercard in Dublin, Ireland, and I knew he wasn't going to fight me. I knew, but I knew the reason why he fought me was because right before that fight, I fought a guy called Juan Polo Perez. He was a former champion, and I struggled against him because I was going through a lot of promoter problems. My head wasn't in boxing. I won the fight. I still beat him, but I didn't. I looked like garbage. And Hamed, I got the call the next day to fight Hamed because he had knocked that guy out in 2 rounds. So I'm thinking, things work out the way they should. And so I did a press conference with Hamed a few months before up in New York, and Hamed just, for some reason, a lot of the media were suckered into, he had knocked out 18 guys in a row, and they all believed that he was going to do it to me, but I'm like, I never even been hurt in the ring. And he said he was going to knock me out in the second round, and I'm like, okay. And I just laughed at him, and the media believed it, and then I get in the ring. Before we get in the ring, I said to him, the first thing you're going to do when you hit me, you're going to run. You're going to run away. And he laughed at me, and I said, you're going to run. And as I say, for 12 rounds, he ran away, and of course, he was signed by HBO, and I always say you can't beat the corporate. If HBO have they're protecting their asset, you can't beat them. If you knock them out, they may give you a draw.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So unfortunately, that HBO signs fighters, which I don't think should be allowed, and then you're fighting them, and you have no chance at all. But
yeah.
You say I went 12 rounds, and the media were shocked. I wasn't even hurt, And I don't know what I say before the fight. I was more or less telling him, why would you even think that? I know he can punch, but I'm not dumb. I've been hit. I know how to ride the shots or do this or do that. Eddie taught me that. But they just thought I was going to walk in, knock me out, and go home.
Yeah, well, he was wrong.
Didn't happen.
And Marco Antonio Barrera would completely expose him a year or two later.
Oh, and I was doing commentating for that fight at ringside for Sky TV, and I remember that night Barrera got out of the ring, walked straight down to me and gave me a hug. It's almost to say we did it. And I remember that was brilliant. It really was. But Hamed had to say, he was with Frank Warren when I fought him. He left his promoter Frank Warren. He left his trainer Brendan Ingle, who was an Irishman. And I remember I've got Frank Warren on video saying right after the fight that McCullough deserves a rematch back in Britain or Ireland. And it didn't happen because I knew Hamed wasn't going to fight me again because he was used to knocking out guys. He knocked out 18 guys in a row. We're level, but he didn't come close to knocking me out. So that's why I didn't fight him again.
All right, so a couple fights later, you're in with another Mexican legend. We just talked about Barrera, Eric Morales. And Morales said you gave him one of the toughest fights he's ever had.
Yeah, he was ready to quit in the 9th round. I always say, I wish he would have. Because, Morales had knocked out 9 guys in a row. And I say he was a super bantamweight, 122, like 5'9". And I fought Hamed the year before. He was one of the pound-for-pound best. And then I fought Morales. He was one of the pound-for-pound best. I was in 3 divisions. I fought bantamweight, then I went to featherweight. Then I dropped back down to super bantamweight. And I remember in the press conference that Morales said he's gonna do to me what Hamed couldn't do and knock me out. And I just actually laughed. And he said, and you can laugh if you want to, in Spanish. And I'm like, I knew what he was saying. I'm like, okay. And I remember going out the first round. He came after me, and then I pushed him back. And I took the first round on all the scorecards. And his corner then told him to back off me because I was too strong for him. Just box, 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 box. And he did that for 12 rounds. It was a close fight. He won. And but you know what? In the 12th round, he was still hitting as hard as he was in the first round.
Yeah, he was a great fighter.
And he hit really hard, believe me. He hit pretty hard, believe me. He could send that shock factor down your side.
Yeah, so what do you attribute? I mean, you fought all those years, all those great champions, never off your feet. What do you attribute your ability to take a punch to?
You know, I did have a good chin. You know, Ring Magazine gave me the best chin in boxing back in like 2001 or something. And I knew how to ride the shot. Eddie always said that I didn't get hit as much as the people thought I did. When I did get hit, I could take the shot. And maybe, you know, the truth is my skull is twice as thick as the average human. So maybe it's like a shock absorber. And the doctor told me that. I'm like, okay. But, you know, I knew how to, you know, a lot of willpower as well. When a guy hits you hard, your mind says you'll fall over or stay up. And I took the hard route and stayed up.
Yeah.
I wanted to, and I yelled. I remember Morales hit me hard, and I screamed at him. I said, "Come on, hit me harder, hit me harder." So it's a psychological thing as well. When you yell at a puncher to hit me harder, and then he decides to back off.
Yeah, kind of a mind over matter thing.
Yeah, it's a mind game too, and you just gotta, you know. I had a lot of willpower, and I had the belief in my head I was going to beat everybody. That was my belief, and I think that's what. If you have that, then you can keep going, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And then the other interesting thing that I found out by researching a little bit was October of 2000. You went home to have a homecoming fight and couldn't get licensed because the British Boxing Board of Control said they found a cyst on your brain. Can you tell us what was going through your mind at that point and then what coincided after that?
Yeah, it was a weird part of my life. Believe me, October 12th, 2000, I did the regular scan in Belfast, and then October 18th, 6 days later, the promoter comes to the gym, and I'm just finished my last workout more or less before I weigh in the next day, and I was tired and grouchy and grumpy. We'd sold out the arena, and the promoter calls over to his gym, and he more or less says to me face to face in the car that my career is over. One more punch to the head can kill me, and I can never fight again. And I'm not worried about not fighting again. One more punch to the head can kill me.
Yeah.
And I believed it. There's no evidence given to me at this point, but I believed it, and I'm thinking, what is going on here? And then I was advised to go and get a second opinion down in Dublin the next day, which I did, to neurosurgeons. The guy who took the scan in Belfast was a radiologist. He wasn't even a neurosurgeon. And the Dublin people, I went down and they seen a little thing in my head, but they said it wasn't nothing to do. It wasn't in my brain. It was in the space between the brain and the skull, and it was insignificant, more or less. But as I say, I come back to Belfast that day. They let me weigh in. They let me step on the scales and weigh in, the British Board of Control. And then they said I couldn't fight. And the whole fight was called off. And then I didn't see any reports still. And then I go back to America. The Nevada Athletic Commission, who looked after me 100%, sent me down to UCLA to see one of the chief neurosurgeons, who's actually today the chief neurosurgeon of UCLA, Dr. Neil Martin. And as soon as I walked into him, he said, "Whoever told you were going to die with a blow to the head need their head looked at, more or less, because that's not going to happen." He did all the scans possible and cleared me. And he said the cyst is more or less like a little space in my head between the brain and the skull. It's not even anything significant, not even a cyst, not even this. And I'm like, okay, so this is weird, but still you're believing that you're going to die with a blow to the head. And finally, you know, the British Board of Control for some reason kept blocking my passage to get my license back. And then 15 months after the original scan, my lawyer said, okay, we demand to see the reports that we're going to file a lawsuit. So we got to see the reports of the British Board of Control, which didn't get to them until 2 days after the fight was supposed to happen. And their chief doctor cleared me. And I'm thinking, is this a Twilight Zone? And not one doctor who ever looked at my scans had failed me at all. Because the guy in Belfast couldn't read it properly, sent it to their neurosurgeons. And for some reason or other, somebody stopped me from fighting. For 2 years, for 27 months, I was at the ring. And for some reason, they stopped me from fighting. But then I got my license back in Britain in 2002. And I fought in London and I fought in Belfast again. But I missed like 2 years of my career. Still to this day, I don't see the reason why. My health is the number one thing, of course, but there was no dangers to boxing at all. Boxing is a dangerous sport, but there was no further danger by having something in my head. And unfortunately, I was number one contender in the world at super bantamweight still, ready to fight for a belt. I probably lost out in maybe a couple of $1 million of paydays, but the British Board of Control didn't give a damn.
Yeah. The politics in boxing can drive you nuts sometimes, to say the least. Then you end your career, you get 2 shots for the WBC Super Bantamweight title against Oscar Larios.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about those fights and then what led to your decision to retire?
Yeah, well, the Larios fight's a great fighter, 2-time Super Bantamweight champion. And the first time I fought him, I had one fight in 2 years. And I wanted to be more active before I fought for another belt. But, of course, I took the fight up in Fresno, California. And another fight, even the commentators had me win the fight. And most people had me win the fight. And then, of course, he was an Oscar De La Hoya fighter, and I fought him in California. It was hard to win.
Yeah.
And then when they read the scorecards out, I wasn't even at the fight. I was probably sitting in the coffee bar getting a cup of tea because the judges' scores were unbelievable. And for them to have me win the commentators had me winning the fight, and to say, I'm like, wow. And that really gutted me again, another belt I could have had. And then, of course, I got the rematch, and then Freddie Roach stopped my fight in the 10th round for no reason, because I'm trying to figure out to this day, wasn't even marked up, wasn't hurt. And I had Larios cut over both eyes, one with a headbutt and one with a punch. And everybody knows William McCullough's last couple of rounds is his best rounds, and for some reason I didn't get them last 2 rounds. It was really crazy. So that was the disgusting part. After that, for 5 weeks, which is not me, I set my gloves on the ring, which is my home gym in Vegas, and I didn't even do one workout, no boxing for 5 weeks, which was the longest of my whole life as a boxer, because I was so disgusted with boxing. You know, it's just unfortunate that you get to this point, but I'm not the only fighter, and I won't be the last fighter either, who gets disgusted with the politics of the sport.
Yeah, I don't think that I've talked to somebody yet that boxed that wasn't disgusted by that.
And it's unfortunate because it's a great sport. The sport is, the sweet science. It's beautiful, but it's the people around it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's great people in boxing, but there's a lot of sharks as well.
Yeah, most definitely.
Unfortunately, it's like that.
Go ahead. So what are you doing today? I think do you own a gym?
Well, I haven't officially retired.
You haven't officially retired? Okay.
I keep myself in training. People look at me and think, holy crap, you look like you're in fight weight. I'm like, I run every day, 5-6 miles. I train an hour and a half. I spar with people. I do personal training with people. I train a few fighters, a few celebrities, and I get enjoyment teaching people that actually have no ability at all, and then all of a sudden, after a few months, they can actually get in there and spar with somebody because they've improved. And I teach about a defense as well, and they love that part. They can get in there and spar and block shots and roll shots and slip shots. And of course, my goal is to train a fighter from scratch to a world championship. I really would love to do that, of course. And Eddie showed me all the things to do in training and breaking videos down when you're watching the opponent of a fighter. And hopefully someday I'll get that one guy who walks through the gym.
All right, now we had another question.
Or girl.
Yeah, you can't forget that.
My wife just said I'm sexist.
Well, and that brings us to the next question. We had a listener, John Einreinhofer, who said they used to always show your wife at the fights way back in the mid-'90s. She was always participating in the old AOL boxing chat groups. He said she was obviously married to you, but what made her such a great fan of the sport?
Well, she didn't know anything about boxing when I met her. That's the funny thing. And I met her at a boxing show after I won a gold medal. And people were writing to me, and I wrote back to her and said she was 16 years old. And then the rest is history. It's like, and then she got involved in the boxing. She's like my shield, because on social media, you know, everybody's good on social media, and then you get that one bully on the social media who's like, oh, I'll knock you out, I could do this to you. Keyboard warrior. And see, what I want to do is I want to find out where they live and knock their door. You know, but my wife is better with words. So it's good to have her, like even today on social media, she controls that for me. Otherwise I would definitely, when I go back home and somebody said something, or even in America, people say something, I would knock their door. I really would, and say, "Okay, I'm standing here. Okay, do you want to fight me?
You'd be searching IP addresses, trying to find out where they live."
Yeah. So she's good at that, and then she learned about boxing, the history of the sport, and you know everything about boxing. So, and it's great to have women in boxing that have that knowledge, and and she protected me right through my career.
Yeah, and I know from doing a little research also, you have a daughter that's really talented, great singer.
My daughter is actually, I still think she's 2 years old, but she's turned 20 in March.
I know, I'm that way with mine too, and she's like 25.
Yeah, well then you know what I mean, and you're going through it 6 years ahead of me.
Yeah.
But my daughter, I taught my daughter, like she used to run about the gyms. When my wife was pregnant, my wife said at the gym. My daughter was born 2 days old. She was in the gym with me, taking pictures. And then she grew up in the gym, and then all of a sudden one day she picks up the gloves and starts hitting the bag. And I'm like, okay. So I taught her how to fight when she was like 5 or 6 years old. And she loved it. And she can fight for real, but she's a singer. She just graduated college last year with cosmetologist, makeup artist.
Yeah.
And she can fight if she needs to, but she doesn't. She's doing other things, and I say my daughter's like, she's a great kid. I don't call her kid anymore because she's a woman, but you know, she's traveled the world with me, and that's what I wanted, and she's going to have a great future. She's talented in what she does, and she's passionate about what she loves. She loves what she does. She doesn't do something half-heartedly. She does it because she loves to do it, and that's why she'll be successful.
So I assume you still closely follow boxing today?
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with all the different. There's a lot of different belts today.
Yeah, the 5 champions in 17 weight classes.
Oh yeah, so back in the day you could name every world champion in each division, but I say no. I'm looking forward to the Canelo Triple G rematch. You know, it's Lomachenko just proved against Rigondeaux that that speed can beat power, and he did that. He stayed close to Rigondeaux and smothered him, and Rigondeaux didn't like that, and he got the win. But say even in Britain have a lot of world champions. You know, Ireland, we have a good Ryan Burnett. He's got 2 belts of the Bantamweight division. So it's good to see that that back in Britain and Ireland they've got a lot of world champions. And say over here, I say the pound for pound best. Who's the pound for pound best? That Floyd is retired, or has he retired? We don't know.
Who's that?
They keep talking about him coming up, Floyd Mayweather.
Oh, I don't think he'll ever retire as long as somebody give him $100 million for somebody he can beat up.
I know. If somebody offers you $100 million to fight a guy who's never fought before, then why not?
Oh yeah. I mean, what did you think of the McGregor-Mayweather fight?
I know Conor McGregor, but I actually know Floyd Mayweather longer than I know Conor. I sparred with Floyd back in the day, and when Conor was here, I said to him, "Why don't you come into the gym, and I'll teach you real professional boxing?" Because I know what it's like to be with Floyd. But of course, he seemed to train with people who are not as good as him. And to be a better fighter, you got to train with people who are better than you.
Yeah.
But Floyd, when I didn't carry him, he did carry him. Floyd didn't throw his left hand, which his jab was an important punch, but he didn't even throw it. I think he hurt it, but then he waited till Conor get tired, and then, Conor McGregor's a puncher in MMA, as they say, and in boxing he thought he was going to be a bigger puncher, but Mayweather, who's not a big puncher, turned into the puncher.
Yeah. Well, I mean, McGregor didn't know how to throw a punch correctly, so it was basically all arm punches.
That's what I mean. Yeah, you're right. It's all boxing. We focus on one thing, and that's punching to your head or body. That's our MMA, which I love. They've got 5 or 6 different disciplines, but you're not focused on that one thing. And in boxing, it showed that the boxing as a boxer against an MMA fighter is like 10 steps up.
Yeah, it's like an MMA fighter against a boxer in an MMA ring.
Yeah, the only chance a boxer has against an MMA again in an MMA fight is that one punch, which happened. Ray Mercer, former Olympic gold medalist, knocked out Tim Sylvia, who was a former UFC champion, in an MMA fight. So that one punch you may get it, but if you don't get that one punch, then you're in trouble. Believe me, you're going to be wrapped up like a pretzel.
Yeah, they get you on the ground, you're done.
Yeah, you got to know the jiu-jitsu and the wrestling and stuff like that. But I say, hopefully that fight with Conor and Floyd will just show people that, MMA is MMA and boxing is boxing, and we're two separate sports that can actually coexist because they're good sports or they're fights, but they're different. They're so different.
Yeah. So, what's your opinion on Triple G and Canelo in a rematch?
I love it. Canelo. I love Canelo. I really do. I call him the Irish Mexican, red hair, white skin.
Yeah.
And no, I love it. I think that the first fight for me, I thought that could have, if anybody was a winner, maybe Triple G, but I thought it was a close fight, and I thought a draw was good, and I thought a lot of fans weren't looking at the fact that the Canelo was being, he was on the back foot, moving around, counter punching, and he was picking up rounds that were close, and Triple G followed him around all night long. He didn't even cut him off. I was surprised that Canelo was walking onto his Triple G's right hand all night long to his left, and he didn't even step over into his right hand. But hopefully he learned from the first one. But I think the second fight's going to be huge. It's going to be unbelievable, and a great fight. And I'm a Canelo. I love Triple G. I respect his skill, but I'm a Canelo fan, and I would like to see Canelo win.
Boo! I'm a Triple G fan.
No, both. You know what? The good thing is both guys are humble guys, good for the sport, and they're not they're ripping each other apart verbally and stuff like that. They actually get in, shake hands, and fight.
Well, and I think that was the great thing about having it right after the Mayweather-McGregor shit show.
Yeah, it was the Mayweather-McGregor was an event. It wasn't a boxing. It was an event because I was at it for Sky TV, and they had the red carpet out for the celebrities. It was an event. It was like the Oscars. It wasn't a boxing thing. It was like just an event. You were going to the Oscars or something, and it was a money thing for Floyd, and I take my hat off to Conor McGregor. To get Floyd Mayweather into the ring and get himself $100 million. Who can do that? And he did it. So you can't blame him for that.
No, you can't blame either one of them for making some money.
No, they suckered in the real fights. The real people were suckered in, and unfortunately the prices went up. The pay-per-view goes from $70 to $100, so that was to pay their purse.
Yeah. Well, there was 5 or 6 million people that paid their purse, so.
Exactly. Everybody, we're not going to buy it. We're not going to buy it. We're not going to buy it, and then boom, 5 or 6 million.
Yeah, I know. I bought it. I couldn't help it. There wasn't any other fight on that night. And I'm a sucker for anything that's got boxing in it. So.
I know. The fight was okay. It was disappointing in a way, but it was
Well, like you said, it seemed to me that Floyd was going out of his way to try to make it look more exciting, to make up for all the people that were still pissed off about paying $100 for Mayweather and Pacquiao.
Yeah. Well, he just said that recently. He said he carried, and then you can see that if people say he didn't carry him, he did, because Floyd always throws his left jab is one of his best punches. He didn't throw his left hand all night, and then he throws single right hands, double right hands, and he's catching Conor, and like when he's just stopped him, and Conor's falling back and really badly hurt, and Floyd just right hand, and they got him. They stopped it just in time for Conor would have been badly hurt then. He really because you're getting punched up the head over and over and over and over and over, and Conor's not used to that, So it's different being a boxer, getting hit over the head all the time.
Yeah. So to transition to the UK a little bit, what's your take on a guy like Lee Selby?
Lee Selby's he's slick, he's a slick mover, boxer, and he's very effective. He's a big featherweight too. He's the type of guy that you don't want to fight, but he's good. I like the kids. He moves around. He's successful in what he does. Not a big puncher, but what he does instead of the way of punches. He's really, really, let's say, hard to fight.
Yeah, I think anybody that fights him has to go in knowing they're not going to look good doing it, even if they do win.
No, you got to go in there and make it a dogfight and just try to rough him up and stay close, because otherwise you'll make it look like a complete fool. And just got to break him down, try to hit his body, break his body down maybe.
All right. Hey, Wayne, it was an honor having you on the show. We'd love to have you on sometime when we preview some of the bigger fights that are coming up, if you're interested.
That'd be fantastic, Mike. I really would. Thank you very much for considering me.
All right. Hey, thanks a lot, Wayne.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Great talking to you.
All right, guys, I want to remind you, Thursday at noon, we'll have former heavyweight champion Larry Holmes on the show. You can also check out the old interviews we've done with George Foreman, Ernie Shavers, Mike Weaver, Alex Ramos. Make sure you go to Facebook and check out the Retired Boxers Foundation and Alex Ramos. Very, very needed organization in boxing. Remember, you can hear all of our shows on iHeart, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher. Wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Wayne McCullough, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.